Welcome to another episode of Hermitcraft Genesis, where we start off on Chapter 6, perspective of Caitlin Kimberly, and we just enjoyed a show of a fan-made story based on my own created world. And yeah, I just stuck the hermits in it and just decided to see what would happen. But right now we're not in Hermitcraft, so yeah, this is just related to the hermits, but not exactly in Hermitcraft, though. It's still technically Hermitcraft Genesis. But yeah, get ready for an adventure. If you haven't read the past parts, be sure you do so, because there will be spoilers. But let's get right into it. Chapter 6. Kate walked down the hallway lined with oak doors, her backpack clinging onto her shoulder. She'd promised Jack she'd be waiting for him by the front office door for pickup a couple of minutes before. And now she was headed to her first class, in room 104. That did not mean to rhyme. The hallway was eerily quiet, apart from the sound of her footsteps bouncing off the walls. Was she in the middle of first semester or second semester? Or was she even in a trimester school? Jack hadn't told her, not that she expected him to. He was more of her escort than an encyclopedia of answers to her never-ending questions. She had her schedule in her pocket, right beside the communicator she'd brought with her. The last thing she needed was to be called without it. She just hoped the hermits didn't try to call her during class. She shuddered, not sure how she would explain an interruption like that. Then again, her friends were probably busy on more important matters than worrying about her. School wasn't as big as a peril compared to other things she'd had to deal with recently. Kate glanced up at the hanging signs on the door, counting the numbers to herself until she found the room she was looking for. She could hear the adults in the room talking. Was she about to enter her first day of school class late? Dad would not like to hear that, but was it really her fault? She shrugged the thoughts aside as she opened the door, trying to be as quiet as she could. The teacher spotted her almost immediately. It was a tall woman in her mid-30s. She wore her dark hair in a bun, her eyes narrowing for a moment before she smiled. "Why, you must be the new student. Come in and let me introduce you. Class, this is Caitlin Kimberly. She came all the way from Orchardwood to learn with us." Kate heard the crowd of students murmuring to themselves as she walked to the front of the classroom. She hoped she played the part of a confident new student, even though she didn't feel any bit of that. What was she even doing here? Now that's not how Blossom Meadows greets their newest guests. The teacher clapped her hands together. The room of grumbles turned into a polite explosion of applause. Kate tilted her head curiously. Is this how schools greeted their new students? She could get used to this. Why don't you take a seat over by Beverly over there? The teacher pointed over to an open seat by a petite girl with dark curly brown hair and brilliant gray eyes. Kate did as she was told, noticing Beverly giving her a welcoming smile with a thumbs up. "Thanks," Kate muttered, putting her backpack on the floor as she went to grab a notebook and a pen for notes. Excuse me, I'm rubbing my only eye I can see. The teacher, Miss Strife, began right where she'd left off before Kate wandered in. Strife sprung into a story about a battle between humans and YouTubers, explaining how hundreds of years ago there was a war between the two groups. Kate was only half listening, hearing Haley's voice break into her thoughts. YouTubers and humans didn't always fight back then, Haley had told her. At first, they lived peacefully, seeing the strengths and weaknesses in each other, and working together to create a world where everyone was free to be themselves. What happened? Kate asked her, drawn in by the tale. People wanted more, Haley sighed. I'm not saying it was all our fault. Both sides got greedy, desiring power and control. It's always been you that ruined it for the rest of us. And Kate sighed. She hoped Haley was doing okay without her, especially with Eliza still on bed rest for another week. She would have had to make new friends here now, and try to lay low. She couldn't even be sure the school was safe for friends of YouTubers like her. Some strife was going on and on about how the YouTubers ruined life for the humans. How the YouTubers had taken over cities and farmland, leaving thousands of people homeless. It was a warped version of the story Haley and the other teens had learned at Rose's school. A history fueled by fear, just as the man inside her head craved, seeing his victims be afraid, to fear him, so that he was in control. Not afraid of you, she snapped at the man, wondering if he could even hear her, if there was anything to hear. For all she knew, she didn't have the ghost of Gerald in her head. For all she knew, she only had his memories and thoughts, his desire for vengeance on the people who took everything from him. Pretty boring stuff, huh? A voice whispered in Kate's ear as she jumped. She turned to see Beverly with a knowing smile. No, it's not that. Kate shook her head, glancing over at the clock. She had 7 more hours to go before she could go home. Back to the mansion, at least. Then what is it? Beverly teased, nudging her Kate playfully. Reading. Blech. I heard a different story, that's all, Kate said quietly, not meeting the girl's eyes as she wrote down some notes in her notebook. She certainly did not want to get caught talking in class and having her father hear about it. She wasn't being herself, and she needed to be good. For her friends. For her parents. I'll find your lunch, Beverly nodded. I want to hear all about it. Nothing too spectacular. Kate blushed. Miss Kimberly, is there something you want to say to class? To the class? Miss Dry's voice pierced through the room like a knife through butter. No, ma'am. Kate straightened, glaring at Beverly from the corner of her eye. Was this girl trained to get her in trouble? Very well. My time with you has completed. You are excused to go to your next class. Miss Dry smiled. Kate swallowed, packing up her stuff and shoving them into her backpack. She paused when Beverly dropped a piece of paper on her desk. Haphazardly, Kate snatched it and put it in her bag as well, before heading off to her next class. Chapter 7. Kate lumbered out of the 4th session of school, trying to weave around the sea of peers her age and older, keeping her gaze forward. Her focus was interrupted when she heard her name being called. She turned, spotting Beverly pushing past other students out of the way to get to her. Kate noticed that another girl was with her. She was tall but thin, with straight blonde hair and bright blue eyes, hidden behind the curtain of her hair. Kate paused, glancing back over to the other end of the hall. She walked in the opposite direction and pretended she hadn't heard her. But Beverly had caught up to her before she could attempt to get away. I'm glad I caught you. I'm assuming you don't know what a cafeteria is, since you're new. Unless you took the tour. I only got here yesterday, Kate said plainly. At Blossom Meadows? Beverly pressed. About 10-minute walk from here out of town. Kate shrugged, glancing over to the other girl. You've got a friend. This is Gracie. She and I have been close since we started in elementary together. Beverly wrapped an arm around Gracie, who smiled shyly at Kate. That's cool, Kate nodded, readjusting her backpack strap. It reminded her of the elytra straps that she had always had to secure when taking to disguise. Her mind immediately went to Luke. She frowned. He'd promised to teach her aerial combat. Did that ever happen now? Come on, I'll show you where the cafeteria is so we can get lunch together. Beverly grabbed Kate's hand, pulling her down the hall as Kate struggled to keep up. Before she knew it, the three of them had arrived at a large room as kids filed in. Some of them were carrying their backpacks while others didn't. She looked back, noticing the lack of lockers in the hallway. How hadn't she noticed that before? Where did the students put all of their stuff? Beverly didn't give her much time to think about the answer, much less ask her, as Kate was thrust in line as a plump woman handed her a tray rhythmically. Kate could see a distant look in the woman's eyes. Kate shook her head and grabbed some food, a turkey club sandwich, and with a side of apple and carrots. The turkey club sagged on the plate as if she'd been sitting in the fridge, and it had been sitting in the fridge and had reheated in the microwave. The cheese looked melted as well, as Kate followed Beverly and Gracie into the empty table. I guess there's turkeys out somewhere in this Minecraft world. I don't know. Could have been a chicken club sandwich. Turkey club sandwich sounded nice. Hey, you never know. Turkeys might be added to Minecraft someday. Why are you being so nice to me? Kate asked when she sat down. She noticed Gracie had taken a plate of salad, looking at it with a frown. Beverly was quick to answer. Why wouldn't we be? We're Blossom Meadows townsfolk through and through, and proud of it. She blushed. We're always nice to people. Even YouTubers? Kate stared at the girl, remembering Jack's words to refrain from mentioning Stampy or anyone associated with him. Does that include the hermits? What would happen if these people like Beverly and Gracie, knew that about her friendship with YouTubers? Would they even want to be friends with her? Sure, they seem nice, but could she really trust her? Okay. Kate picked up her sandwich and took a bite. She forced herself to chew and swallow it. It was a far cry from the sandwiches Liam could make. By a mile. What had of a scar who had made them the last time? She wasn't entirely sure. So, you want to hear a story? I'm just curious, that's all. Beverly shrugged. You seem like a nice girl. I hadn't seen you around. I want to get to know you a little bit. What's Orchidwood like? What do you learn there? She leaned closer and whispered, Are they friends to YouTubers? Kate tensed. It was a nice place. We lived in an oak forest. Our trade was apples, if you could believe it. Really? I thought it was orchids. Beverly smirked. You have orchids in your town? No. Orchids are more common in swamps. Kate shook her head. I hear the blue ones are pretty. Beverly nodded. Gracie has been to a swamp before. She brought me back one. Remember that, Gracie? Gracie nodded, like the sky came to her. I planted it in the garden my mom made for me and my sisters. We each have one, Beverly added quickly. But I think it needs more rain than we usually get. It doesn't bloom as much as it did when I got it. Kate smiled. You should see if you can find a book about it. I'm sure there's plenty. Me? Read a book? Beverly snorted. You could never catch me reading. It's boring. Kate shrugged. You just haven't found the right one for you. She caught a smile appear on Grace's face. I guess I'm friends with two bookworms then. Beverly groaned, but the smile still shone. That's a good idea. Do you have a library near where you live? Is there one at Blossom Meadows? Kate asked hopefully. It used to be, Beverly replied. The smile faded some. But we couldn't keep funding it, so it had to be torn down. A lot of people were upset about it. Oh, Kate nodded, picking up a carrot slice and nibbling on it. I wish I'd brought my books from home. We left in such a hurry, I didn't have time. I can see if my dad can get you some, Beverly beamed. He's an accountant, which is pretty rare profession. Nearby towns need his help all the time. You don't have to do that, Kate insisted. I did it for Gracie. I'll do it for Gracie all the time. Beverly pointed over to her friend. Whenever I got a chance to go with him to work calls, he was really chill about it. I get to spend the whole day exploring towns. It's awesome. It would be nice, Kate agreed. I don't have much to do at home anyway, apart from my required meetings. Oh, those are the worst. Beverly shook her head with disappointment. Half the time I don't even read them. I do fine regardless. I've read very interesting required materials over the last few months. That's for sure. Kate chuckled before she hesitated. My school didn't have as many restrictions on what we read as most do. Fascinating. We should totally see if Dad can take us there so he can show us around. It won't be possible. Kate bit her bottom lip. Why not? It was attacked by a group of rebels a few months back. That's why we moved. Beverly's eyes widened. YouTubers? Kate shook her head. Nope, human rebels. Why, hello there. Why would they do that? Gracie asked softly. Beats me. Maybe they thought you were hiding YouTubers or spotted them. Beverly's eyes shone. How can you tell there weren't any? Gracie said softly. I repeat those two things. Again, I don't need to say that. I already said it. Kate swallowed. They were anti-YouTuber group. Gracie nodded. Beverly piped in. It's good you made it out then. Yeah, Kate replied, looking down at her nearly empty tray. Suddenly, she jumped to her other pocket, began to buzz, her heart skipping a beat. Was Scar calling her back? Excuse me, do you guys know where the bathroom is? Of course, I can show you. Beverly got to her feet, frowning when she looked down at the table. Why is the table vibrating? My dad's trying to call me to check in on me, Kate said quickly, bouncing to her feet. I can't miss it, otherwise he might worry. Okay, Beverly nodded, glancing over at Gracie before grabbing Kate's arm. I'll show you. Beverly led her to a nearby set of doors, spotting the girls' bathroom. Kate thanked Beverly and slipped inside, checking it to make sure no one else was in the bathroom with her before she pulled out her communicator. I was wondering when you may call, Kate replied, hearing her friend's chuckle. I made a promise, didn't I? Scar mused. How are you? School's fine. Kate shrugged. I made a couple of new friends today. Wait, you're going to school? Scar asked. Dad's decision. I had a cause member escort me to school today. It was nice enough. But you're safe? Are you? Of course! Scar chuckled again. Liam just got back to me after your request with the results. Could have given them sooner. Too, but I'm also glad you didn't. Kate admitted. It's a lot hard to explain a portal communicator around here. I don't think anyone carries them. Interesting. Scar replied. Is it a good time? We can chat later after school if it's easier. I probably shouldn't stay here long. Anyone can walk in here. Kate blushed. I'm in the bathroom. Scar laughed. There shouldn't be any cameras in there, right? Can't be too sure, Scar. Kate admitted. I'll call you after school. I promise. Then everybody can tell me what you've been up to. And you'll tell us what you've been up to as well? Scar mused. Obviously, Kate giggled. I really should go. Beverly might worry. And she thinks I'm talking to my overprotective dad. I'll let you go then, Scar said gently. Stay safe, okay? I will if you will. Kate smiled. If anything comes up, if you need extra help, don't worry about us, Kate. Just enjoy your time there for as long as you can. Keep up your training. Stay safe and vigilant. You got it, Captain. Kate grinned. Scar chuckled again, before saying farewell as she cut the connection, clutching the communicator to her chest before pocketing it. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad after all. Chapter 8. Let's keep going. Why not? The bell rang, signaling The end of the school day as Caitlin sprung out of her desk, scooping up her backpack, glancing toward the window where she could see the front of the school. Would Jack be picking her up today, or to take her home, or had her father sent someone else? Kate followed the stream of her fellow peers as she stepped into the hallway, blasted with loud chatter and excitement. Friends were fighting each other, preparing for adventures. She walked down the hallway, trying not to listen to what her peers were saying. They were mostly boring stuff today. She wouldn't be able to get to the opportunity to explore the town. Her father wanted her home after school, safe and sound. Safety has to take away all the fun, a quiet voice whispered in her mind. She shuddered. Talk to me, she snapped back, straightening as she neared the front door. She wasn't going to let Gerald take over her every thought. He didn't have that right, any more than he did trying to hurt her friends. You know it's true, Gerald sneered. His voice sounded far away. Every one of my prizes thought they were safe before I exploited their security. Every single one. Kate took a deep breath, following a tall boy out the front door, and he held out the door for her. He seemed to be a grade older than her. She nodded respectfully. The boy nodded in return before dashing off toward a group of boys. She smiled at the boy, taking a seat on a nearby bench, her brain going back to what Gerald's thought had said. She knew he wasn't wrong. The cause members would do everything they could to protect the YouTubers, yet Gerald somehow slipped in. He disguised himself as a safe house host, tricking innocent YouTubers into trusting him before he dragged them to their deaths. He lured his victims in to him through using those they cared about, regardless if they were human or YouTuber. He faked his own death so that he could work behind the scenes, hurting more people before Tango and Impulse had outed him to Liam. He found ways to cut corners around security measures to attack his victims. No matter what anyone did, he was one step ahead of them. Kate paused, looking up at the sky. Was even her thoughts? Or was Gerald still talking to her, trying to weave her into his web of lies so he could take her too? She shook her head. Gerald was dead. He couldn't come back for her, much less anyone else. Her thoughts were interrupted. Someone called her name. She looked over, seeing Beverly jogging toward her, before plopping down on the seat next to her. Waiting for your ride, I'm guessing? Yeah, Dad doesn't want me walking home on my own. Kate shrugged. He's paranoid after the attack. He almost lost Mom through the sickness. Beverly frowned. Glad she's okay. You don't even know her. Who cares? I've heard about the contaminated rivers. It's pretty bad. Beverly fidgeted beside her. People died. That was before the antidote was created, Kate said softly. Yep, I hear a bunch of YouTubers made that, although I highly doubt it. Why? Kate looked over at her, unsure if she should tell Beverly about her friends or not. Jack had been quite clear not to talk about anyone associated with Tempe. Why would they want to help us? Beverly insisted. All they've done is steal and hurt us. Our kind. Kate shook her head. Can't believe everything you hear. But they have hurt us according to history. Beverly snapped her fingers. And we hurt them. Also according to history. Kate smirked. Like I've said, I've heard a different story. Is it true? Who knows? But I do know that not all YouTubers are bad. I'm guessing your dad is working with them? Beverly raised an eyebrow. Kate bit her bottom lip. Sure, I suppose you could say that. You seem to trust the hermits. Gerald taunted. She shoved him away, but the thought continued. They always break their promises. It's not true. Kate sighed, spotting a figure walking toward them. Kate blinked away the sunlight as she recognized Jack. She smiled and waved at him, getting to her feet. Bev, this is Uncle Jack. He's the one who takes me to school and back. Jack gave the other girl a nod. Friend of yours? Yes, sir. Kate nodded. He smiled. Your father will be delighted to hear it. I was just about to ask Kate if I could come over to see your place, Beverly asked quickly. You only just met me. Yeah, best friends do that all the time, Beverly grinned, punching the girl in the shoulder playfully. Great, they had to go home. She wanted to do her homework. Dad probably wants me to do the same, Kate grumbled, crossing her arms. He's been in his office all day. I doubt you'll notice if you spend a few hours with your friend. Jack nodded. I'd be happy to escort you back home, Beverly. No, that's okay, Beverly giggled. I'll be fine. Saying that if you had a mad scientist after you, Kate chided, looking over at her friend. Are you sure your parents will be okay with it? I'm always at Gracie's house. I don't think they'll mind. Beverly pushed her question aside with a swipe of a hand. Come on, I want to see everything. Kate smiled, following Beverly and Jack as they took the path behind the fancy mansion her father had in safe house. Her hand hovered over the communicator, wanting to pull it out and call her friends. How would she be able to slip past Beverly and talk to them? She'd probably give them a call after school. Maybe she could walk and wait a couple hours. What harm would that do? It only takes a moment. Korean's words filled her mind. Kate put her hand in her pocket, feeling the cool metal. Her friends were worried about her as much as she was. She was about them, technically, but no. It wasn't fair for them to wait, wondering if something had happened to her. Would she be able to forgive herself if something happened to them? Besides, she wanted to know their test results. Was Gerald actually inside her? Was there anything left of her? She needed to know. Needed to know what that woman of a scientist did to her. If there was any way to control this, any way to stop Gerald from twisting her every thought into his own. I think I'm going to end that there. That might be okay. Because then I can entice you with coming back next week about figuring out the test results. Albeit, I don't know how many people are actually watching through this whole thing, but, it's fine. Do my own little world building. Of course, I can't do, every little thing. There are so many people. So many people I still haven't done. But, of course, the story's gotta end somehow. And there's always room for short stories after. There is. Always. But, yeah. This story's been fun to read so far, and I hope you've been enjoying it. Even if just casually listening. Yeah, next week we'll start on chapter 9. See how far we get. And, we are halfway there. Pretty much. Halfway through book 3. And we'll be out to book 4, and we'll see what goes from there. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, I'll see you in the next one. Whatever that might be. Goodbye.